So when would you say that your passion for human rights started?
That's a great question. It's a big question. Do you know, as I think I wouldn't have used the word human rights for a long time, but I was probably aware of the importance of talking about experience. My parents were always said yes. I was asked to do nothing huge, but a few media interviews about my experience as a person with disability. And I certainly had a sense that if I could talk about my experience, that was a good thing to do. And probably only as an adult, when I look back, I realised that in some way that was about promoting human rights, promoting inclusion of people with disability. And then I did some other work for a welfare agency, so I became aware of the challenges of people in out-of-home care and young people experiencing disadvantage, all sorts of different areas. And then I kind of went, oh, well, as a person with a disability, I'm also part of a marginalised group within our society. And I started to become more aware of the importance of human rights, I guess, in my own life and in the lives of other people I met with disability. I've learnt that human rights is a concept, firstly. And then the more I've tried to understand it, the more I've realised it's a big, complicated thing. I've been sort of speaking to someone about it recently, and we've been saying it's like trying to eat an elephant, trying to think about human rights and how we might make it make sense to peers with disability. It's huge. It can be overwhelming. But what I try and come back to is, what can I do on a daily basis? I can't change the system. I can't challenge people's rights to housing, people's rights to health, people's rights to education, people's rights to freedom, people's rights to information. Like I cannot, I need to move from that sense of overwhelm to the small things that I might be able to do to make change happen.
What are some of those small things you could do to make change?
I think firstly it's about doing some learning, just not in a huge way. You don't have to get a uni degree, but just like have a chat with a person about human rights. What does it mean to you? There's lots of documents you can read on it. And then, so there's a bit of education that you can do. And then I've been thinking, it's about the little things that happen on a daily basis in your life, and you kind of, as a person with disability, you walk away from a situation and you think, that wasn't right. Something happened there and it wasn't okay. So for me at the moment, it's like, okay, what did just happen? Or maybe that's actually about a human right. Maybe that taxi driver asking me who I live with, and like if I live with anybody, and that's a breach of my right to privacy. And so that's a small thing, but I have a human right to privacy. And so I have the right to say, actually, I don't need to tell you that. I don't need to give you that information. It's also potentially a breach of my safety, because a taxi driver asking you where you live is a little bit creepy. Why does that driver, it's usually a man, but I don't want to be sexist about that, but why does he want to know that? So it's kind of trusting myself to actually say, I don't have to tell you that. So I would have had a vague sense of like, I'm not comfortable. Now I kind of say, actually, that's about a right that I have. So I reckon what we can all do as people with disability, I think, is just notice. Just when something happens and it feels a bit wrong, just like, what just happened there? And is it about a human right that that's not being upheld for me?
Can you tell me a bit more about why you think the peer movement specifically can support that change with human rights?
The peer movement can support the change because nobody knows our own life experience better than another person who's living it. And if not identically, similar. It's a similar lived experience. And so peers with disability, like when we come together and when we say, yes, that's an action that we need to take, yes, we need to do something about that unacceptable thing, like there's a collective energy there's a coming together of ideas and approaches, and I don't know, there's a determination, there's a kind of the I get you factor. Like, I share that this is really unfair, unreasonable, unjust, and I'm going to sort of work on this with you. But that all sounds really serious. Actually, part of being a peer movement is about having fun and having some jokes and feeling a sense of belonging and not being judged. That's what people say they love about being part of the peer movement. So it all seems a bit heavy, and I don't want to say that all we do is get stuck in this big stuff, but there is something around coming together and just, we can always do more together than we can as individuals.
Awesome. Power in numbers.
Power in numbers,
Power
right
numbers,
on.
Yeah.
Yep.